Hello everyone. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and let's go.
Hi friends, please subscribe and help me get my first 1,000 subscribers. It's one click for you, but for me, it's a huge encouragement and motivation. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's go. Trust is a luxury the observant man cannot afford, as the deepest betrayals often wear the mask of familiarity. He watched the subtle shifts in the shadows of his own home, unaware that the enemy was already breathing the same air and sharing his secrets. Let's analyze the microscopic red flags that most men overlook until the trap has already snapped shut, for educational purposes only. So, I was sitting there at the bar in this dive called the Rusty Anchor, right in the heart of Seattle. I leaned back in that creaky wooden chair, spinning the last bit of my IPA around in the glass, just staring at my watch. The waiting was eating me alive. I had this gut-wrenching feeling, you know the one, like you've got a hive of hornets in your chest. It was not just because my wife was late. It was that feeling I'd been trying to drown for the last few weeks. The feeling that everything was sliding sideways. Ryan was sitting right there next to me, nursing an O'Doul's. He had the graveyard shift coming up at the Boeing plant, so he was playing it straight. We both worked the line there, rough work, but it was steady, kept the lights on and the fridge full. Ryan was not like me. I was always the one with the plan. Chloe and I were squirreling away every cent for a down payment on a house in the suburbs. We even talked about the day she'd finally stop taking the pill so we could start a family. But that night, man, even with our usual bar ritual, something felt off. I was gripping that pint glass so hard, my knuckles were white as bone. Chloe said she'd be there, but she was running late. Again. That had been happening way too much lately. "You good, man?" Ryan asked. He'd noticed I was looking like I'd just watched my dog get hit by a truck. "Yeah, fine," I said, waving him off. I tried to force a smile, but I'm sure it looked crooked as a dog's hind leg. Look, Ryan and I had been buddies since we were kids. He was never exactly Mr. Reliable, always betting on the wrong horse, always a bit of a screw-up. But despite all that, I figured he was my brother. Hell, he was the best man at my wedding. He's the guy who threw me that wild bachelor party that ended with us waking up in a motel in Vancouver with no cash and the mother of all hangovers. Back then, it was just a stupid story, but sitting there that night, it tasted bitter. Maybe I should have known back then that you can't trust a guy like Ryan with your last dime, let alone your life. The minutes dragged on. I checked my phone again and shot her a text. "You coming?" Nothing. Not even a red receipt. "She's probably just stuck at the store," Ryan said, watching me check the screen for the 10th time. "You know how Whole Foods gets during the rush?" "Yeah, probably," I muttered. But deep down, I knew he was full of it. Things with Chloe started shifting about 3 months ago, right after I got back from that 2-week training seminar in Portland. At first, it was great. Better than great. We were all over each other, and the bedroom was like a damn fireworks show. I figured we were just making up for lost time. But after a few weeks, the wheels came off. She started pulling away. Suddenly, she was tired or not in the mood every single night. There were 100 little things I'd been ignoring. The excuses, the smaller paychecks, the weird hours, and then there was the flirting. Now, Chloe always had a way with guys, a look, a smile, but lately, she'd become real quiet about it. At first, I thought she was just growing up, trying to be a good wife for me. Then it hit me. She was not being careful for my sake. She was saving that energy for someone else. I took a long pull of my beer and sighed. It's hard to admit that kind of crap to yourself, let alone say it out loud. You ever think Chloe seems different? I asked, trying to sound casual while looking at him over the rim of my glass. What do you mean? Ryan raised an eyebrow but went right back to his non-alcoholic beer. Seems like the same old Chloe to me. I nodded, but his answer just made my skin crawl. If anyone was going to notice something was wrong, it should have been Ryan. But he did not see a thing. Or maybe he just did not want to. She's just been acting weird lately, I kept going, trying not to sound like a desperate head case. Less time at home, more overtime at work. Ryan just shrugged. Man, everyone goes through rants. You're overthinking it. I did not say anything back. Maybe he was right. But that did not explain why every time she came home from one of those shifts, her hair smelled like a shampoo I did not recognize. And it did not explain that spark in her eyes, the one she used to have only for me when we first started dating. Right as I was chewing on all that, the door to the bar swung open, and in walked Chloe. She looked perfect. Blonde hair done up just right, a little touch of lipstick. She walked over, flashed that $1,000,000 smile, and kissed me on the cheek. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Work was a total circus. Ryan gave me a little wink, like he was saying, see, told you so. But I knew. I felt something click inside me, like a piece of a puzzle falling into place, but the picture it made was terrifying. I stayed quiet, just watching them. Chloe was chatting away with Ryan like everything was fine, but right then, I made a promise to myself. I was going to find out the truth, even if it burnt my whole life down. After that night, the itch under my skin just got worse. Chloe was acting like nothing was wrong, but I felt like a stranger in my own house. Her schedule was all over the place. Those shifts at the grocery store were starting late or running 3 hours over. The house was a mess, too, and she used to be real picky about keeping things neat. There was only one word rattling around in my brain. Cheating. I had to know, and I had to know fast. I could not follow her myself. My schedule at the plant was slammed, and my boss was not giving out any vacation time. Then it hit me. Ryan. Hey, Ryan, I said the next time we were at the Anchor. I need a huge favor. Ryan was sitting there with a regular Budweiser this time, and he looked up. Sure, Nick. Name it. I leaned in close. It felt like swallowing glass just to say the words. I think Chloe's seeing someone. For a split second, I saw something flash in Ryan's eyes, something real small, but he covered it up with a look of pure shock. You're kidding, right? Chloe? Come on, man. She worships the ground you walk on. She'd never do that. I used to think so too, but things are different, I said, rubbing my face. I was just so damn tired of the guessing games. Could you help me out? Just keep an eye on her when you're on the day shift. See where she goes after she leaves the store. Ryan acted like he was thinking it over, but looking back, I bet he had his answer before I even finished the sentence. Yeah, man, I got you, he said, nodding. If it'll put your mind at ease, I'll do it. I felt a little weight come off my shoulders. I really believed him. We'd been friends since we were playing t-ball. If you can't not trust your best friend, who can you trust? Thanks, brother, I said, clapping him on the back. I knew I could count on you. Meanwhile, that snake was probably already planning his next move. He knew he had to be careful now. Their little affair had been going on for months, and they were loving every second of it. Now they just had to be sneakier. The next few days were pure hell. Ryan kept checking in, telling me everything was business as usual. "I followed her, Nick," he'd say. "She's just working late. Maybe grabbing a coffee with some girls from the deli. You were stressing over nothing." I'd just nod and try to believe him, but the doubt would not go away. And honestly, the way Ryan was so sure about it started to bug me. It did not feel right. So, I decided to do something that felt a little crazy at the time. I bought a few of those tiny hidden cameras off Amazon and set them up around the house. I even put a tracking app on her phone while she was in the shower. I hid the cameras in the bedroom and the living room, the places she spent the most time when I was not around. I knew it was a desperate move, but I was out of options. I spent a whole week glued to my phone, waiting for those cameras to show me something. But Chloe was playing it real cool. On the surface, everything looked normal. Then, one Tuesday, I caught a glitch in the matrix. We keep a shared calendar on the fridge to track our shifts. Chloe was marked down for the 4 p.m. slot at the store, but the front door camera caught her leaving at 10 in the morning. Way too early for a shift change. Here's the kicker. She left her iPhone sitting right there on the kitchen counter. She did it on purpose, so I could not track her GPS. I sat in my Ford out in the driveway, staring at her little green icon on the Find My app, just sitting dead still at home, while she was out God knows where. "Where the hell are you going, Chloe?" I whispered to the dashboard. The next day, I decided to end the guessing game. I did not need a key to find him out. I saw a notification on our shared iPad. Her phone had automatically connected to a familiar Wi-Fi network at an address I did not recognize. Ryan's address. I drove over there while he was at the plant, took 2 of those tiny Wi-Fi cameras and tucked them away, one in the living room and one in the bedroom. Then, I went home and waited. A few days later, my phone buzzed. I opened the app, and there she was. Chloe walked right into Ryan's place like she owned the joint. They were not just hanging out. They were all over each other, heading straight for the bedroom. The cameras even caught her starting to tidy up his kitchen later, like she was playing house. 2 hours later, they walked back into the living room, grins plastered on their faces. I sat in my darkened den, the only light coming from the cold glow of my monitor. My heart was thumping against my ribs like a sledgehammer, but I kept my face stone cold. I just watched my wife, the woman I was supposed to grow old with, laughing and carrying on with my best friend. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. But I had the truth now. I saved the footage, took about a dozen screenshots with the timestamps loud and clear, and tucked them away. I knew I could not just scream and shout. I needed a plan. I wanted to see the look on their faces when the trap snapped shut. The next morning, I called out sick from the plant. I stayed home and watched her. Her shift was not until 4 p.m., but at 10 a.m. sharp, she grabbed her bag and headed out. I gave her a head start, then hopped in my truck and followed her at a distance. She took the same route she always did, straight to Ryan's. She did a quick look around, did not see me, and slipped inside. I sat in my truck a block away, looking at the clock. It was 10:15 a.m. I looked at our calendar on my phone. She was supposed to be at work in 6 hours. It made me sick. She'd spend the day with him, then come home to me and act like she'd been stocking shelves all day. I took a few photos of her at his door and the time on my dashboard. "This is it," I muttered. Something inside me just snapped for good. When I got home, I went to work. I printed the photos and stuffed them into a manila envelope. No way they could lie their way out of this. I also went online and printed out a formal legal separation agreement. I put that in the envelope too. Then, I called Ryan. "Meet me at the Anchor tonight before your shift. I asked, keeping my voice as flat as a pancake. "Sure, Nick," he said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, fine. Just want to talk about something. Chloe's coming too," I added, like it was no big deal. He hesitated for a second. I could almost hear his brain working. But then he played it cool. "Sounds good. See you there." I got to the bar 30 minutes early. I picked a quiet booth in the back and propped my old phone up on the table, hitting record. I wanted every second of this on video. At 5 p.m. sharp, Ryan walked in. He looked relaxed at first, but when he saw my face, he stiffened up. "What's going on, man?" Ryan asked, sitting down and taking a swig of his beer. "Wait for it," I said, staring him down. "Chloe's almost here. I want to talk to both of you at once." He was fidgeting now, trying to hide it behind a fake smile. I just sat there, feeling this cold satisfaction knowing he had no idea the ceiling was about to cave in. A few minutes later, Chloe walked in looking like $1,000,000. She touched my shoulder and smiled. "What's with the secret meeting, baby?" she asked, sliding in next to me. I leaned back and looked them both in the eye. My voice was cold as a Seattle winter. "How long have you two been sleeping together?" Chloe went pale as a ghost. Ryan just froze, his mouth hanging open. They both started stuttering, trying to deny it, but I just reached into my jacket and tossed those photos on the table. There was Chloe walking into Ryan's apartment. There they were, 2 hours later. There they were on his couch, acting like teenagers. "Do not lie to me," I said, keeping my voice low. "I know everything." Chloe let out a shaky breath and looked away. She realized there was no exit. "It happened," she whispered. "But it does not mean anything." "I love you more, Nick. Please." "More? What the hell does that even mean?" I cut her off with a nasty laugh. "So you love him too? What percentage of your love do I get while you're out screwing my best friend?" Chloe buried her face in her hands, and Ryan finally managed to choke out an apology. "I'm sorry, Nick. It happened. I love her, but she loves you." I was boiling over, but I stayed in my seat. "Sorry? I treated you like a brother, Ryan. I trusted you with my life, and you spent your time using my wife behind my back. How am I ever supposed to look at you again?" I turned away, trying to keep from leaping across the table and ending him right there. "You both betrayed me. You as a friend, and you as a wife." Chloe reached for my hand, sobbing now. "I'll choose you. I'll do anything to fix this. Just give us a chance." I let the silence hang there for a long time. Then I looked at her, and my voice was dead. "Anything? Fine. You want to save this marriage? You're going to have to earn it on my terms. This is your punishment for what you did." I pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket and slid it across to her. "This is the list. You do everything on here, or I walk." Chloe's hands were shaking as she read it. It was all there. Open book policy. I get full access to every phone, every email, and every social media account. No passwords. I do not know. Zero contact. Ryan is dead to us. He never shows his face near our lives again. Counseling. Weekly marriage therapy starting Monday to figure out how you could be this cold. The truth. No more lies about anything, ever. A sacrifice. To prove she was serious, she had to give up something that mattered to her, a symbol that the old life was gone. Chloe looked at me, her eyes red. "You're serious? You want me to do all this?" "That's just the start, Chloe," I said. If you want to fight for us, you'll do it. If not, sign the papers in that envelope." She just sat there, clutching that paper, tears streaming down her face. She knew this was her only shot. I stood up and looked at Ryan one last time. "And Ryan, if I ever see you near my wife again, you're gonna wish you were never born." I did not wait for him to answer. I just walked out of the bar and left them sitting there in the wreckage. That night, I sent one last text that was gonna put a bullet in my friendship with Ryan for good. I attached that video of him and my wife and sent it straight to our plant manager, Mr. Harper. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a short reply. "See me at the factory." I knew Ryan's phone was sitting on his workbench. I waited until I saw him pick it up for a coffee break. Then I hit send on a group chat with our shift leads. He watched the video of himself with my wife right there in front of everyone, seconds before Harper's office door swung open. The next morning, at the Boeing plant, the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan showed up looking pale as a ghost, like he already knew his world was about to do a backflip. I did not even give him a second glance when I walked past. I saw Mr. Harper's Ford Raptor parked right up front, which was weird since he usually did not show his face until noon. An hour later, the shouting started behind Harper's office door. A few minutes after that, Ryan stumbled out, face all twisted, clutching a cardboard box with his personal crap thrown in. His career was a smoking crater. As he walked through the shop floor toward the exit, the guys started whispering. I just stood there by my station, watching him go with this cold, hard satisfaction. Everyone gets exactly what they deserve. Later that evening, Chloe tried to corner me again. "We're gonna get through this, right, Nick?" she asked, looking at me like she was drowning. I slowly looked up at her and said, "Maybe." She started crying again, but I just sat there, dead still. "I'll find a way to make you forgive me," she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. But the truth was, I was not sure forgiveness was even a thing anymore. She tried to play the part of the perfect housewife, cooking dinner every night, cleaning the place top to bottom, being real sweet. But I stayed miles away. All her effort just felt fake, like a bad performance. That trust we used to have, it was gone, buried 6 feet under. Every time she tried to give me a hug or talk about our feelings, I just stepped back. I knew right then that no matter what she did, that crack in our marriage was never gonna heal. One night over dinner, she finally broke the silence. "I know you do not believe me, but I'm ready to fix everything, Nick. We can start over. Let's just leave Seattle, move somewhere new and start fresh." I kept chewing my steak, not even looking at her. Then I put my fork down. "I'm not moving." She froze, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "But why? Everything here just reminds you of him, of what happened. Do not you want to forget?" I looked her dead in the eye, cold as ice. "Because moving is running, and I do not run." She put her face in her hands and started sobbing. "I'm so sorry. Please, just give me a chance." I looked at her with a kind of indifference that surprised even me. "A chance? You had a million chances and every ounce of my trust, but you traded it all for him." She tried to touch my hand, but I pulled away. By the next morning, I realized I was just spinning my wheels. Trying to fix this was a waste of time. I went down to a law firm in downtown and handed over the paperwork for a legal divorce. It hurt like hell, but I knew if I did not do it, I'd never be myself again. "I'm grabbing my gear and staying at a buddy's place for a week," I said, walking into the bedroom. That'll give you time to figure out where you're gonna live. Chloe ran in after me. "Do not do this! Please! I'm begging you!" I stopped and turned around. "We both know it's over, Chloe. You stabbed me in the back with a guy I called my brother. You cannot unring that bell." She dropped to her knees, crying her eyes out. "I love you. I'll do anything." I just shook my head. Love is not about promises or words. It's about trust, and that's dead. I did not say a word back. I just placed the signed divorce papers on the kitchen counter, right next to the list of conditions I knew she'd never truly meet. I walked out into the cold Seattle wind, and for the first time in 10 years, I could finally breathe. I did not look back. I was not running. I was finally free. The hero's primary mistake was not his capacity to love, but his willingness to ignore his gut instinct when the patterns first started to break. He fell into the trap of blind loyalty, assuming that decades of history could prevent a knife in the back from the one person he called a brother. Here are 3 key takeaways. First, trust is earned daily, not grandfathered in from the past. Second, never outsource your intuition. If something feels off, it usually is. Third, legally and emotionally, always have an exit strategy. A man who cannot walk away is a man who can be exploited. How would you have handled this double betrayal? Was his method of justice too cold, or exactly what they deserved? Write your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more honest, no-nonsense case studies.